Hey everyone, it's Corey with Reel Filmmaking, and today I'm going to show you how to use a dual ISO feature on your Canon EOS M using Magic Lantern. Now the Canon EOS M is an amazing little camera. I've done tons of videos about it here on the channel, and when paired with Magic Lantern, and specifically the most recent build of Crop Mood, you can just get some stunning, honestly cinematic images. I love the footage coming out of this little camera. But recently I've been messing around with the dual ISO feature on the camera and to see like what I could do with it, figure it out. And this video is kind of me sharing my findings with you and showing you how to get that up and running with your camera. So before we jump into it, what is dual ISO? Is it ISO? Is it ISO? I never know when I'm talking to people. Some people say it this way, some people say it the other way. And honestly, like subconsciously, I don't even realize like how I say it. ISO, I don't know. So forgive any variants throughout this whole video. The dual ISO is this cool feature that Magic Lantern has built into it that allows your camera to capture the same scene at two different exposure settings and then kind of composite them in post. This is a very simplified explanation. But in doing so, it allows you to retain your shadows and your highlights when otherwise you wouldn't be able to. And this tends to be the biggest weakness of consumer level cameras, including the EOS M, is they just have a really weak dynamic range. You either are gonna end up crushing shadows, clipping your highlights, you don't get to see all the dynamic range in between there. So using the dual ISO feature, I would definitely say you get at least a stop, maybe a stop and a half, maybe two stops, depending on who you talk to, of more added dynamic range to the camera. And getting those extra stops of dynamic range really helps to hide the fact that we're using, you know, the small entry-level Canon camera, when people might look at this footage and be like, wow, like that looks like, you know, you shot it on like a higher end camera. So when would I recommend using dual ISO? I would definitely say in scenes that have high contrast. So this might be something where it's like you have a lot of brights and you have a lot of shadows in your scene. Maybe something is backlit and you want to try to capture the full range of shadows and highlights. Maybe you're in an interior scene and you're trying to expose for outside. Like maybe you're in a car driving and you want to catch some of the detail outside, but you want to retain some of the detail like in the interior. So those high contrast scenes will definitely benefit from using dual ISO. Without further ado, let's jump over to the camera and MLV app and I'll show you how to get going with dual ISO. So first find the scene that you want to shoot, go into the menu and navigate over to the modules and make sure that you have dual ISO enabled. This will allow you to turn on the dual ISO mode. So once you do that, I like to go to preferences and go to customize buttons and set my dual ISO to my info button. That way I can toggle it on and off really easily without having to worry about going into the menus to set everything up. So now find your scene that you want to shoot, hit the info button, and you've got dual ISO going. You see it says 100 and 800. Those are the two ISOs it's going to be working at. And you want to make sure that when you're using dual ISO that you do a technique that's called ETTR, or exposed to the right. And so you want to make sure you're just under the clipping point for your highlight. That's going to give you the best results when MLV is analyzing and using the dual ISO to get the most data. And then you just hit record and you're good to go. Okay, so I'm here in MLV app, and as you can see, I've got some clips loaded that I've shot with dual ISO, and one of the telltale signs that you've shot it with dual ISO is you have all of this like horizontal banding across your clips. It looks like maybe something is wrong, but that just indicates that you've shot it with the dual ISO. So again, here's a scene that I shot. I was inside a car driving, not actually driving, but I was a passenger in the car, and I wanted to see if I could capture some of the details outside of the car and the highlights, but also retain some of the shadows here. So I'll just do my normal MLV corrections, what I usually do. So, you know, fix focus dots, interpolation, and I use Chroma Smooth 3x3. So now you come to the dual ISO. So we're just gonna hit that and let the magic happen. So even already, just looking at that before I do anything, that is incredible. Look how much information came back in the highlights. That is just wild. Before, after. So like you can see this mountain here, you can see the gradient of the blue sky here. It's just incredible. So then usually You know, I might adjust a few things here, maybe pull the exposure up if I want to, again, pull the shadows up, but you can see how much information you can still hold on to in the shadows without it getting pretty noisy. So that is incredible. So sometimes I'll adjust that here in the MLV app like this, maybe 50%, and then I will export this clip out as a ProRes 422 LT. It kind of is a good sweet spot between quality but not like huge file size. So then yeah, after I've made all these changes, I'll come here. I like to export it as S-Log3 footage, and then when I pull it into Resolve, I still have a ton of latitude to do adjustments to the highlights and the shadows, and you know, I can do a little bit of noise reduction cleanup if I want to, but I get a very pleasing, good looking image. Well, there it is. That's how you use dual ISO on your Canon EOS M with Magic Lantern. This camera keeps surprising me on the amount of quality that you can get out of it, and using the dual ISO feature really just helps to elevate the look of certain scenes that you capture with this camera. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to Reel Filmmaking for more content coming about the Canon EOS M, Magic Lantern, filmmaking, creative process, all that goodness. And until next time, keep making movies and watching movies, and I'll see you on Reel Filmmaking. So much dynamic range, so little time. Oh man.